Welcome to the Radio Nice and Central Milan Bulletin for Friday, July 17th, 2026 on France Today. Com, in podcasting, via AI chatbot, and on medium waves at 1575 kHz. In the newsroom in Nice, Marco Hugo Barsati. From Paris, it's Rachel Costa. News from France World Cup. Deschamps promises to fight for third place against England. On July 15, 2026, at the end of training in Boston, the head coach of the French national team, Didier Deschamps, launched an appeal to his players to keep motivation high after the semi-final elimination against Spain. So, in an interview posted on the French Federation's social channels, he emphasized that, although the team has not yet reached the set goal, it is ready to focus on the new commitment. The match for third place against England, scheduled for Saturday evening in Miami. There is a third place, and we will do everything to win it, the coach said, urging the players to draw their own royalty before the tournament ends. Meanwhile, the FIFA ranking has changed. Argentina retook the top spot. Europe remains in second place and France has slipped to third. On the other side, English coach Thomas Tuchel acknowledged the low appeal of the match for his own men, but guaranteed that the team will prepare professionally, despite having one day less of rest than the French brothers. Beyond the sports section, news emerged about the closing ceremony of the World Cup. FIFA announced that the opening concert of the final ceremony will be entrusted to Post Malone, accompanied by high-profile guests such as Laura Pausini, Nicole Scherzinger, and Robbie Williams, with Tom Cruise also taking part. The event, which will be held in New York the following Sunday, promises a mix of music and spectacle in a Super Bowl style. Note: the text is taken from a live broadcast of the FIFA World Cup 2026 aired by France Info. Fact check by Gemma. For a portion of businesses will not be punctual. Bercy imposes e-invoicing and remains confident of massive adoption despite expected delays. The French tax administration is ready to launch, starting September 1st, the obligation of electronic invoicing. From that date, all companies must receive their invoices through one of the 8 digital platforms authorized by the state. Large-size firms must, from the same day, issue invoices electronically. The requirement will be extended to all economic entities by September 1, 2027. The measure, presented by Minister of Action and Public Accounts David Amiel, is justified by the need to make the fight against tax fraud more effective, especially fraud concerning VAT. Out of roughly 11 million companies involved, only 2 million have already chosen a reception platform and have been entered into the dedicated register, which implies a still long road ahead. The government has reassured that well-meaning businesses that fail to meet the September deadline will not be penalized before the end of the year. Paper invoices will remain valid until further notice. The General Directorate of Public Finances, DGFE, and the State Financial Informatics Agency, AIF, held, shortly before the start, a final meeting with accounting experts, trade federations, and platform providers to share operational guidelines. A pilot project launched to test sending and receiving e-invoices recorded scant participation. About 10,000 issuing firms and 12,000 receiving firms, deemed insufficient to simulate ideal conditions. Project leaders Sébastien Rabineau of the DG5P and Emmanuel Spinat of the AIF invited still undecided companies to join in order to increase the serenities of the system. Reactions from representatives of economic operators were heterogeneous. Frank Bataille of the entrepreneurs organization Les Entrepreneurs praised the guide published on the inputs. Goo. Fresh site, while Jean-Mathieu Delacour, president of the Federation of Micro-Enterprises, FPTP, said many members are lost in front of the new regulation. Alain Mounier, head of the accounting firm Fedeco, warned of the risk that some clients may fail to appear in the official platform list. Lady Loden from the Cleaning Companies Federation observed pressure from commercial partners to choose specific platforms and sometimes to issue e-invoices before the 2027 deadline. The minister recalled the case of Belgium, which introduced e-invoicing on January 4. 65% of businesses had complied by the deadline, reaching 80% within 2 months. Amiel confirmed that the calendar remains unchanged, without summer interruptions, and described the intervention as What a great service for companies that will jump on board. DG5P Director Amélie Verdier compared today's doubts to those surrounding the opening of the Paris 2024 Olympics, emphasizing the government's confidence that the reform will contribute to economic growth. Despite early difficulties, authorities pledged a deterrent effect on fraud and a rapid response capability in case of critical issues. Note: this article is a translation from the original French published by BFM Business on July 17, 2026. Fact check by Gemma for Rachel's editorial, Buckets of Bits and Yesterday's Promises. I am now reading my editorial of the day. Bercy wants, by September 1, all companies to receive invoices on electronic platforms. As if a good dose of trust were enough to turn bureaucracy into an app to download. Isn't that a bit like telling a cat to learn to fly? Yet the minister seems sure that portion of people will not be on time. With the smile of someone who has just found the key to a chest full of delays. Let's take a peek at the numbers. Of 11 million companies, only 2 million have already chosen a platform. And the pilots count 10 0 0 zeros and 12 0 zeros and 12 0 zeros. These figures do not speak of an imminent revolution, but of a village still using homing pigeons. Perhaps Bercy thinks the rest of the world will magically light up with the glow of a digital dashboard? Or perhaps the real goal is to make us believe that digital transformation happens at the speed of a tweet. The minister's speech is a concert of optimism. There will be no penalties for those who arrive late. The fraud-fighting force will be ready. We have a strike force. It is like promising that the Jurassic crowd will rise to applaud our invention of a hand cart. Yet, when 2027 approaches, small firms, still lost among paperwork, will have to pay the same e-invoices that, for now, don't even have an email address. In short, e-invoicing seems more a seasonal fashion than a structural solution. If the government really wants to fight tax fraud, perhaps it should first lend a hand to companies that still don't know how to open an email, instead of launching a platform festival and hoping the audience arrives on time. Real change requires more than a confidence campaign. It needs a concrete plan, not just shiny slogans. Koan of the day. A monk asked the master, "Master, if electronic invoicing is mandatory, why have so many small businesses not adopted it yet?" The master replied, "The river flows even when the stone is late. Digital is not a stone but a bridge that is built step by step." The monk insisted, "And if the bridge collapses, must we start over from the beginning?" The master smiled and said, "When the bridge collapses, the traveler learns to walk on foot. Haste is the most feared opponent of progress." But let's get back to the news. French 30-year bond yield reaches highest level since 2008. The 30-year 08 yield rose to 4.735% on Thursday, July 16th, marking the highest point recorded by the market since the autumn period of 2008, immediately after the Lehman Brothers collapse. The increase, over 5 basis points by 15.30, reflects growing investor concerns about the solidity of public finances of the euro area's second largest economy. In Q1 2026, French public debt reached 117.5% of GDP, a figure that fuels fears of further spikes, especially ahead of the 2027 presidential election and the budget debate scheduled for autumn 2027. The government, through the Ministry of Finance, announced a strict containment of public spending for the next year, with particular attention to rising defense outlays and the growing burden of financing costs, as illustrated by the spending ceilings published by Bercy. The Strategy and Planning Council, led by Clement Beaune, underscored the need for an effort of fiscal consolidation in the coming years to avoid an uncontrolled debt drift toward 2050, aiming for a 4 percentage point reduction of GDP by 2031. Another report commissioned by Finance Minister Roland Lescure warned, however, of a possible significant deterioration of public finances by the end of the decade if timely spending containment measures are not adopted. The international context is equally challenging. Middle East conflict tensions and a sharp rise in oil prices have pushed interest rates higher across Europe. IG France market analyst Alexandre Baradez noted that French rates are particularly poorly positioned relative to this global upward trend. Added to the economic issue is political uncertainty, heightened by the recent court decision allowing Marine Le Pen to run in the upcoming elections, a factor that keeps markets focused on possible budget scenarios. The yield spread between French and German 10-year bonds has widened in recent days, reaching 83 basis points at the start of this month, a level comparable to that recorded after the dissolution of the National Assembly in 2024. Note: data sourced from BFM Bourse, cited by Reuters. Fact check by Gemma 4. Welcome to the International Bulletin from Radio Nice and Central Milan for Friday, July 17, 2026 on France Today. Come in podcasting and on medium waves at 1575 kHz. From Paris, it's Rachel Costa. Iran says it has attacked a military base in Syria. Tensions rise in the Middle East. Iranian authorities announced they launched an attack against a military facility located in the Al-Tint area of the Syrian desert. The operation, according to the Revolutionary Guard spokesperson, was motivated by what Tehran calls a course change by U.S. forces in the region. The strike was carried out with precision missiles and no civilian casualties were reported, but the incident triggered a new wave of alert among Western militaries. The Syrian government condemned the action, demanding respect for national sovereignty and a diplomatic response. Meanwhile, U.S. troops have reinforced their air defenses and vowed to closely monitor any development, while Washington remains determined to maintain its strategic presence in Syria. Security analysts warn that this escalation could spark further clashes along the Iraq-Lebanon border, increasing the risk of other regional actors becoming involved in the crisis. Oil rises. Iran threatens retaliation if the USA hits critical infrastructure. Crude prices rose in response to a new Iranian statement warning of a military response should the United States continue to strike strategic targets in the region. The Iranian spokesperson described potential retaliation actions as necessary to defend our national security, referring to oil facilities and critical transport routes. The threat came shortly after another U.S. airstrike aimed at Iranian military installations in the Persian Gulf area. Energy markets reacted in real time, with Brent futures recording a jump of several dollars per barrel. Traders highlighted the delicate role of the Strait of Hormuz, a crucial choke point for energy flow to Asia, and the fear of a possible disruption of passage. International authorities have urged both sides to avoid an escalation that could further destabilize global markets and jeopardize the energy security of numerous importing nations. Xi Jinping calls for global cooperation on artificial intelligence. During a conference in Beijing, Chinese President Xi Jinping stressed the importance of international collaboration in AI development. The leader said AI must not become the exclusive domain of a single country, but requires joint effort to ensure responsible and safe progress. He invited nations to build shared standards, promote algorithmic transparency, and defend citizens' privacy. The speech was placed in a broader context of technological tensions between China and other advanced economies, especially the United States, which has introduced restrictive measures on access to advanced technologies. Xi highlighted the need to avoid a digital arms race that could undermine global stability. Industry experts received Xi's remarks cautiously, noting that turning cooperation into reality will require concrete agreements on issues such as intellectual property and cybersecurity. United Kingdom nationalizes British Steel, removing Chinese ownership. The British government announced the decision to nationalize steelmaker British Steel, previously controlled by the Chinese group Jinye. The measure was presented as a response to national security concerns and to protect the United Kingdom's steel production capacity. The Treasury emphasized that the action was taken exceptionally but is necessary to safeguard the country's strategic interests. Chinese authorities reacted by calling the decision an unjustified measure and announced they will assess options to protect their investments. Meanwhile, British unions welcomed the nationalization, fearing foreign ownership could jeopardize jobs and working conditions in the steel mills. Market analysts forecast that the move could affect steel prices in Europe, but also noted that the sector might benefit from greater operational stability under public control. Alphabet tumbles over delay of Gemini 3. 5 Pro AI model. Alphabet's share price took a sharp dip after news emerged of a delay in the development of the Gemini 3 5. Pro Artificial Intelligence Model. The company disclosed that the product will not be ready by the originally planned date, a development that negatively impacted investor expectations regarding future AI revenue streams. Experts stress that Gemini represents one of Alphabet's main challenges against US and Chinese rivals, and that the postponement could harm the company's market position. Alphabet spokesperson said the research team is working to overcome technical hurdles and that a new launch date will be announced soon. In the meantime, equity analysts have downgraded growth forecasts for the company's cloud and AI segment, suggesting investors may shift confidence toward faster innovating players. Despite the decline, Alphabet's overall market value remains high, thanks to the strength of its search and advertising businesses, but observers fear further delays could erode market trust over the longer term. SpaceX cancels Starship test flight. Shares fall. SpaceX decided to halt the latest attempt to launch the Starship rocket from the Boca Chica site after the engines failed to ignite properly. The company, led by Elon Musk, announced that the mission was aborted to ensure the safety of crew and launch infrastructure, pushing the test program to a later date. The cancellation triggered a drop in SpaceX's secondary market share price, as investors expressed concern over delays in the orbital flight roadmap. According to an internal statement, the technical team is analyzing telemetry data to pinpoint the anomaly and implement necessary corrections. Musk reassured shareholders that the Starship project remains a strategic priority, aiming to support lunar and Martian missions in the near future. Space industry analysts highlighted that, despite the setback, SpaceX retains a significant competitive edge thanks to its vehicle reuse capability, but stressed the importance of a series of successful test launches to maintain investor confidence. Anthropic negotiates multi-billion-dollar bank credit boost ahead of IPO. AI company Anthropic is in talks with major financial institutions to increase its bank credit line by several $billions in preparation for a stock market listing. The negotiation, according to sources close to the board, aims to strengthen Anthropic's investment capacity to accelerate the development of advanced AI models and expand its cloud infrastructure. The credit enhancement is seen as a key element to sustain the anticipated pre-IPO growth phase when capital needs surge dramatically. Market analysts noted that the move highlights the growing demand for financing among emerging AI firms, a rapidly expanding sector under intense competitive pressure. The potential credit increase should also improve the company's valuation, making it more attractive to institutional investors. Anthropic, founded by former OpenAI members, has already attracted substantial venture capital backing and now prepares to offer a larger share of its equity to the public, aiming to cement its position among the world's leading AI players. French stock market ends flat despite AI-related share declines. The Paris Stock Exchange closed the trading day without significant moves, with the main index remaining around the previous closing level. The outcome was influenced by a dip in several companies engaged in AI technology development, which saw a modest decline after recent news of product launch delays. At the same time, shares in traditional sectors such as energy and consumer goods offset the loss, keeping the overall index stable. Financial observers stressed that, despite swings in the tech segment, investors remain cautious but not alarmed, preferring to wait for further guidance on European monetary policy direction and upcoming corporate earnings. The stability of the French market was also attributed to a moderate inflow of foreign capital, spurred by a more favorable assessment of geopolitical risk in the Eurozone. Overall, the closing behavior suggests a consolidation phase for the European equity market, with participants closely monitoring both macroeconomic developments and the dynamics of high-tech sectors. Weather: Paris, Monaco, Monte Carlo, and Milan for Friday, July 17, 2026. Paris. Warm and variable day. The morning opens with mostly clear skies and temperatures around 20 degrees Celsius. Light northwest wind at 10 km/h. No precipitation. In the afternoon, the sun dominates. Temperature rises to 28 degrees Celsius. But clouds become denser and the risk of isolated showers climbs to 25%. Afternoon winds pick up, with gusts up to 30 km/h from the southwest, though overall they remain moderate. Evening brings a slight cooling, temperature 27 degrees Celsius, half cloudy sky and rain risk reduced to 25%. During the night, temperatures stay around 22 degrees Celsius, sky very cloudy, wind at 15 km/h with gusts up to 35 km/h. Rain probability reaches 100%. According to expert Regis Crepet, the day will be 3 degrees Celsius warmer than the seasonal average. Monaco, sunny and scorching. At sunrise, the sky is clear, temperatures around 26 degrees Celsius, almost calm east wind at 10 km/h, no rain in sight. During the morning, clouds begin to appear but remain sparse. The feels-like temperature climbs to 30 degrees Celsius thanks to high humidity. In the afternoon, the sun reigns with temperatures touching 31 degrees Celsius, moderate wind at 10 km/h, and a very strong UV index. Evening, the sky stays slightly clouded. Temperature drops to 28 degrees Celsius, light winds at 15 km/h, and no precipitation risk. At night, the sky is clear. Temperature falls to 27 degrees Celsius, calm wind at 10 km/h, perfect conditions for an evening walk. Forecasts indicate a total absence of rain for the whole day. Milan, persistent heat and scattered showers. The morning starts with a very cloudy sky, temperatures around 20 degrees Celsius, northeast wind at 4 km/h, light rain probability about 25%. Around 07, a brief thunderstorm may occur with 7 millimeters of rain, followed by a short pause. In the afternoon, the sky gradually clears. Temperatures rise to 31 degrees Celsius, southeast wind at 12 km/h. Precipitation stops. During the afternoon, the heat is strong, humidity above 80%, and feels like temperature near 33 degrees Celsius. Evening temperature remains around 30 degrees Celsius, sky slightly clouded, light southeast wind at 3-4 km/h. No lingering rain. Night temperatures drop to 29 degrees Celsius, clear sky, wind almost absent, but the heat persists with high humidity. According to expert Daniel Berlusconi of 3B Meteo, the heat will stay intense through the weekend, with a slight drop expected on Sunday. Rachel's weather editorial. When the world melts into an iced coffee, it's really surprising that every sudden puddle or a little extra heat is immediately blamed on climate change, as if nature had signed a guilt contract with climatologists. We then wonder whether next winter's snow will arrive in banker-sized sheets, or if mosquitoes will take off for Mars. But we are certain the real culprit is our neighbor who turns on the air conditioner at 6 in the morning. Koan of the day. Monk. The sun burns, but the wind is a whisper. Zhao. The whisper of the wind is the voice of emptiness. And that's today's weather. Sign off. Online, on X and Mastodon, on all smart speakers, and on medium wave, this is Francia Aghi with Central Milano 1575 kHz. This is all for now. From the Paris newsroom, I'm Rachel Costa. This is Radio Niza, Central Milano 1575 kHz.